Okay, so now we have that all aligned in space. Now I'm going to draw a shape to contain another viewport we're going to add. So these are just guidelines. You want to make sure you're drawing them in the viewport layer so that they don't plot. And you're going to draw some sort of square or rectangle that's big enough to hold the dovetail auxiliary view, but won't allow the viewport, which is rectangular, to cover up the front view. And so you'll see how this works in a sec. We're going to go to Layout, we're going to Insert View, and we're going to pick our save view that we had made for the dovetail, and we're going to place it. And you see how it's a big rectangle by default, and it covers up part of the front view. The polylines that we drew in red ahead of time will be what the view is going to be trimmed to when we get it positioned. Okay, so now we're going into that view, and we're going to unlock it because it's locked by default. So if you can't do anything, it's because it's locked. And we're going to change the zoom extents to extents. And then we locate the view, which is there on the right, and we zoom in and get it close to where we want it. And it's within the box that we've drawn that we're going to eventually trim our auxiliary view to. We change the scale to 1 to 4, just like the rest of the drawing. And now we're going to do the MV setup, align, and then we're going to use the rotate view option. And we're going to select a corner. Turn on my OSNAP there for endpoints. Not sure why it shuts off by default, but we're going to get our endpoint, and then we're going to put in negative 60 degrees. And that should rotate our parts to the same angle that it was projected in. Now my view ended up landing where it was aligned. I think it was blind luck. You may need to do some adjustment there. And so now we will go to Layout, and we're going to use the clip command, and what that's going to do is it's going to clip that viewport and make it to the boundary that we're going to trace. So you pick the viewport, and then take the default, which is polygonal, and you're gonna pick points. Now you didn't have to necessarily draw a shape beforehand, but if you want to plan for the size of that view, it would be one way to do it, so that you can just pick on the corners of your box. Mine was drawn a little sloppy, and once we accept that, you see that the viewport's trimmed. Now you're still going to want to put a jagged edge on the one side, but you notice the portion of the model that's not in within that boundary is now gone. Okay, now that we have everything aligned, we're going to go to each viewport, and we're going to go to the procedure on setting the PT scale. So it's we're going to type in PSLT scale, and we're going to use the ratio 1 if it's not already set. Alright, so now we're going to go to LTS, and we're going to set that to 0.5 and see where we're at. We're going to type explode, and we're going to select our objects. We're going to select global, and then we're going to do line weight, LW, and we're going to accept the default, which is by layer. So now our view should be individual entities. So in the case of our this view, we're just going to delete what would not be shown in the auxiliary view. Okay, so that's our auxiliary view as it should show. You don't really need to do it to this view if you didn't choose hidden lines. That's as much as you need. Now I'm going to choose to leave this as alone. This one will need to have breakout lines added to the edges. Now let's, in these two views, these other views, let's move our information to the proper layers. So again, we've got everything going to layer 0 when we do that explode. So we need to highlight everything in the auxiliary view and move it to profile visible lines. And then same thing with this next viewport. Profile visible lines. And then the last viewport. Profile visible lines. Okay, and then we're going to go through and selectively do our hidden lines. So I'm going to work on this first viewport here. This portion there, portion there, portion there, 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 there. This first line's hidden, that one's solid, this line's hidden, and the other side of this slot is hidden, and so is our bore. So those are all going to move to the hidden lines layer. Okay, let's do the same thing in this view. That should be a solid line, followed by a hidden line, another hidden line, and a series of hidden lines. Okay, we should have our hidden lines showing up in magenta and our solid lines. When I'm zoomed out, they don't appear as hidden. I think I might have an issue with one of these. Oh, yes, this one's hidden as well. Okay, so you should be ready to dimension at this point. You may need to lay down your dimensions in this workspace, but try to dimension what you can in the auxiliary views. That's what they're for. And if you have to, you might need to trim some of these other viewports using that procedure I showed you. And in this last viewport, we're going to use that for our isometric view. So in that we can now unfreeze our model and change its shading. Conceptual, say conceptual shows up the best, and we would of course set that one to the same scale, 1:4, and we'd want to pan it over so that it's not going to interfere with the parts list. And that looks like a better scale than what the original example was. My only complaint about my own drawing is the spacing between this view and this viewport probably should be a little bit more. So you might want to give you a little more space there. Not the easiest thing to manipulate in AutoCAD. But we're going to lock this viewport so that we can't mess with it.